Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Flex Business Podcast. And with me is my guest. His name is Olayemi Fatai, but he's popularly known as Mr. Fatai. So the topic of our conversation today is about Nigeria's silent billionaires. So everyone knows Dangote, but what about the companies that are quietly raking in millions or even billions without public attention? Today, we're diving into the world of Nigeria's silent millionaires. Why do they avoid the spotlight? How do they manage to grow without gaining any media attention? Joining me today, as I earlier said, is Mr. Fatai Olayemi, popularly known as Mr. Fatai. He's a seasoned business strategist with over 18 years' experience driving business growth and financial empowerment in Nigeria and in the UK. He has held top positions in organizations like Faith Foundation, Union Bank, MetLife, and much more. He has a master's degree in finance from the London Metropolitan University. Mr. Fatai has empowered over 6,000 businesses, helping them secure funding access, strategic guidance, and hands-on business support. He is also the founder of Green Business Acceleration Hub and Nymphate Global Services. He has worked closely with some of Nigeria's most successful business owners, both the ones in the spotlight and those who prefer to remain behind the scenes. So, Mr. Fatai, I hope I haven't missed anything from your amazing track record.
Done so well. You've done so well.
Great. So, from your experience, right? Let's start with, how did you get into this role? Like, what stirred your passion for business strategy?
It has been an interesting journey for me in the last couple of years, more than 10 years now.
Okay.
I started my career in banking industry. Thereafter, I was in the UK for my master's, and I had to work for 3-4 years in the UK before coming back to Nigeria. And coming back to Nigeria, I read a report about how over 90% of businesses failed, within the first 5 years. And that caught my attention. I wanted to know more. How does Nigerian business environment really works? And that was how I decided to really, deep digger. And I was like, where can I know more? And that was what led to working in development space, working with Faith Foundation. We all know Faith is all about developing entrepreneurs from idea to, making money and taking that business to the next level. So I was with Faith for 8 years, where we helped so many businesses to start, grow, and scale. And that was an interesting journey for me because I was able to see clearly why business failed. And if I'm going to start from one of them, it's really likely about knowledge gap. So many Nigerian entrepreneurs, they're just like, this business is doing so well in the country. I want to venture into it without knowing fully, what it requires, to really make a business successful. They just venture into it. So knowledge gap is a major, thing that we've been addressing, either at Faith or presently as I work with entrepreneurs as my own personal business right now. That is how I got into it. And like I said, it has been an interesting journey for me, whether in terms of building capacity of entrepreneurs or in terms of business advisory, because sometimes building capacity is not enough. You are building capacity, saying to that person, this is how, you've got to do it. Using different examples, different models. You can do it this way, you can do it this way. But when the person gets back to the field, sometimes they face what you didn't tell them. Some of those things you didn't tell them in the class. So they must find somewhere to run back to, and that is where the advisory starts from. I've been able to create such platform even while I was at Faith. advisory is critical, whether in terms of mentoring, in terms of even linkages to finance, to someone that will help them, put their account together to be able to pay the required taxes and all those stuff. So, yeah. And again, access to finance is a major problem for so many entrepreneurs. If you engage 10 Nigerian entrepreneurs, perhaps 8 of them is going to say to you, my major problem in this space is access to finance. Of course, it is, but definitely not the only. But we prioritize it. Part of what I've been doing, even as at now, is to help entrepreneurs build what we call investment readiness, which go a long way to help them meet up some requirements that investors are looking out for to be able to access the required fund to take their businesses to the next level. That's my journey.
Sweet. Amazing. So even from this conversation, we know that you've worked with a lot of Nigerian businesses, right? So I'm curious, like, what fascinates you about the way Nigerian entrepreneurs operate?
I think today, if I go by statistics or the report from Smedan, we do have about 39.6 million businesses in the country. Majority of these businesses, in fact, from that report, over 80% of them struggle to access finance. And over 90% of them are just small businesses, which means less than 5% of Nigerian businesses are businesses you can refer to as medium-sized or large businesses. So there's so many guys out there doing a whole lot in entrepreneurship space in Nigeria. But the reality is they're just doing it from their passion, their interest. We want to make something happen. We want to make money, But the knowledge is not there. So for me, it's a way of helping entrepreneurs in the country in form of guidance, in form of mentoring, in form of letting them know the right way to go about it. Because, like I said, we just feel this ABC business is making money in the country. We also want to go into it without knowing fully well what do I need to put together to be able to make it a success. So for me, the interest in making a difference, guiding entrepreneurs, being able to take their businesses from what some people call rat race to a greater level. In doing that, one could see the impact, right? I don't want to start mentioning names, but the reality is, after engagement with some entrepreneurs, some years after, you could see some of them moving from one level to a greater one. So for me, that's it's beyond money. It satisfies my heart. I feel so good, that one is making impacts in that regard. So yeah.
Sweet. So I'm thinking, what's so different about the Nigerian entrepreneur spirit? When you see entrepreneurs making a difference in Nigeria, what's so different about them from maybe their counterparts in other African countries or even globally?
So if you look at business environments in Nigeria, it is described as not so friendly. If I compare it with a UK business environment, I've registered a business in the UK. 2 days after, I got my certificate, just like CAC certificate. I got it in my own house. And I think another 2 or 3 days after, Barclays Bank called me to say, we noticed you registered the business. Would you like to discuss with a funding advisor in case you may need funds to take that business, to get it started? For me, that is highly encouraging. But if you look at our own business environment here, you won't find stuff like that. So the point I'm making, while I'm not comparing Nigerian environment and the UK environment, but I can say it for free that, Nigerian business environment is not as friendly as it is expected. And yet, so many guys are still making it, they don't care about it. They're still making things happen. They are running their businesses, whether you are seeing it as, first-class businesses or, they're doing a whole lot. If you check the employment space in Nigeria, small businesses are employing more than 80% of, Nigerian people. So it means their contribution is so enormous, so huge, to the growth and development of Nigeria. So yeah.
So speaking about those businesses that are making it, right? We could piggyback to the title of this podcast. The topic here is the Nigerian silent billionaires. And it was birthed when I think sometimes last year we were reading the CBN report on highest FX importers into Nigeria. Amongst the reports, right, they listed a number of companies, but only Dangote was the familiar company there. We had like a ton of big names there importing great FX into the country, but they weren't known. So with your experience working with a range of business owners, right, why do some businesses stay away from the spotlight? Why do Nigerian businesses, why did they stay away from the spotlight?
I think a number of factors come to play here. First, and I think narrative is changing now. It used to be a case of, we like to operate under the radar. Once you get yourself exposed to the tax authority,
I see.
you pay a whole lot of tax. But the reality is, as we speak, things are changing. Because of the knowledge that's passed across to most of these entrepreneurs, they're having, change of mind in terms of because ordinarily, if your business is not paying the right tax, you won't be able to access the required support that exists within the system. So sometimes, the fear of, if they get to know me, they may start chasing. You want to hide your head.
I get you.
Yeah. But going forward, I think we've seen different examples in recent times. You can see the number of Rubicons that we do have in Africa. We have largest number of them from Nigeria. And these are names we were not hearing some years ago. And I promise you are going to hear more of that. Guys are doing a whole lot in fintech space, technological space, and all those stuff. So now they won't hide, what they are doing. You are going to hear from so many of them. And in fact, additionally, I think it was like a year or 2 years ago that about 2 or 3 years ago that the Finance Act was finalized on that states clearly if you are earning or if your turnover is less than 25 million naira, you won't pay tax. So that gives leverage to some businesses to come out boldly that I'm running this business in my own corner. Before then, everybody was hiding. I don't have enough to pay, and truly, Nigerian entrepreneurs they pay a whole lot, taxes. I think over 70 taxes a small business is exposed to in Nigeria. So it wasn't well defined. And that is what the government is trying to address right now. Hopefully, it's going to see the light of the day. The promise was by second quarter of this year, we're going to start seeing something positive from that angle. So hopefully.
That's amazing. And we're definitely rooting for such a policy to come to light. Yeah. And again, back to why some of them build in silence, I'm curious. Is it also particular industries require you to move in stealth, that you don't show your name too much? Is it just certain industries in Nigeria, do they require it?
I don't believe it is sector agnostic. For me, it's about, first, for entrepreneurs, they do have their vision, where I want to take this business to. But again, there are so many of them that just start that business just to make money, right? Without necessarily thinking about, I want to create wealth. I want to, create employment in the country. If a business is started on the premises of, I want to create wealth in Nigeria, I want to create jobs, definitely you want the government to know that you exist. because you are helping the government to achieve their own purpose. But because so many businesses are started on the basis of I just want to make money, not even thinking of any other person apart from his or our family members, right? So you may want to operate under the radar for ages because in as much as what you are doing can take care of you and your family members and you are seen as a big man within your own locality. So you feel good.
I get you. I get you.
Yeah, it's about the purpose for which that business is set up, the vision that is, that business is projecting. You cited an example of Dangote. Dangote knows what he wants to achieve, what he's achieving around Africa, within Nigeria, and globally. So it depends on the individual. Don't forget, the business cannot achieve more than the vision of the owner of that business. It is where you see that business going. Sometimes where a business starts from does not necessarily matter. And that's why we talk about, you design a business locally, but with the mindset of, you are developing a global business such that it can be relevant to anybody around the world. In as much the business is solving a problem, and that problem is a global problem. So if people are using that solution in Nigeria, people in the UK, people in the US must be able to adopt the same solution to solve that, that same problem.
True. I think that speaks to the phenomenon that we're trying to even push within the tech ecosystem, like local, like even from local businesses, you can also build things that from Nigeria to the world.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Let's go back to some of the unique challenges you did mention that is, that prevails in our environments, the unique challenges some businesses or most businesses have to face operating in the Nigerian environment. And I'm thinking, what do you think separates those that make it and those that probably struggle in survival mode?
To be honest, there are a number of factors. We can only emphasize a few of them. But for me, I categorize these challenges to controllable and non-controllable. There are some that are internal to you as a business. There are some that are definitely external. So those that are internal to you, I consider them as something you can control with your strength, right? And I always say, capitalize on those internal ones that you can control, and you use that one to attract, or to address those ones that you cannot control, right? A number of factors, even as negligible as staff, employees. There are so many businesses in Nigeria that failed just because of human factor. And unfortunately, individuals that run businesses are not necessarily sensitive to this. And that is why it is necessary. If you are building a team, you must be very sensitive to their capacity building, carrying them along to let them see the way the business is, where the business is heading, so that they can find their own path in that business and, feel they are part of this business and they can grow within the business as much as they see themselves as, I'm here to make money, just to earn my salary. They don't care about what happens to that business. But, training and retraining, make them part and parcel of that business. They see themselves as part owners of that business. So employees could be a major factor. Of course, we're talking about finance, access to finance the other time as a major factor. Of course, for ages, access to finance has always been a problem to businesses, whether locally or internationally, and it's going to be. But the reality is it really a major factor? Of course, it could be seen as a major factor, but if some things are properly addressed, I was talking about investment readiness the other time. If a business is sensitive to being investment ready, definitely access to finance will not be a problem. Why do you think some tech guys are accessing millions of dollars Is it not the same Nigeria? It is. But first, they do have their innovative products or service that they render. Secondly, the structure around that business is well built. Processes are built around that business such that even if the owner is not there, the business can run. And you can easily replicate, that kind of a business in some other places apart from where you are starting from. So that gives the investors some level of confidence that this business can run and run well and make more money because their own interest is return on their own investment, right? So access to finance could be a problem, but it can be properly managed if the right thing is done in that business. You can imagine so many of our small businesses in Nigeria do not keep their records. And I don't know how any investor or a bank could give money to such a business that is not keeping his or her own record. You are asking, what is your level of turnover in the last 1 year? And the business owner is not able to answer because records are not kept properly. So the point I'm making here is the fact that if, we are very sensitive to investment readiness, access to finance as a challenge, the way most of entrepreneurs are seeing it in the country, will be properly addressed.
Absolutely.
A lot of guys are coming into Nigeria on a regular basis, looking for the right businesses to invest in. But once they don't see the key things they are looking out for in a business, they rather go back with their money. So, of course, external to a business, one can start thinking about infrastructure in the country. Do we have the required infrastructure? We don't, definitely. But you can still leverage what is available, to take. After all, so many other guys are leveraging the same level of infrastructure and they're making good money.
Sure.
So I say to people, don't worry yourself too much about, there's no light, there's no this. Okay, if there's no light, why do we have generator, right? Of course, one must be sensitive to cost because cost is critical. Don't forget the difference between cost and the revenue at the end of the day is your own profitability. Okay. So definitely you must be very sensitive to cost, but at the same time, there are some costs that are very primary to the success of your business, to your regular operations. So why not identify those primary costs, those key costs, focus on them, manage them well, irrespective of, the kind of support the government is giving to entrepreneurs in the country. Maximize what you have and, be successful in that business. So the point is, like I said, there are a number of, challenges, no doubt about it. But I want to de-emphasize problems. But I want to see how can we manage what we have, what we can control to be able to take our businesses in the country to the next level. Of course, there's a lot of support. Do I call it support or potential support from the government? But again, such support will not get to everyone. It will only get to those businesses that are ready. In Nigeria today, most of our businesses do not have their business plan captured, as in developed. So if a business does not have its business plan developed, how do you want to communicate what that business wants to achieve, to an investor, to some stakeholders? So the point I'm making is, if you are looking at, I want to run a successful business in Nigeria, and I'm looking at addressing this problem of access to finance, for instance, you must, your business plan must, be up to date, right? If I'm speaking to an entrepreneur, I'm an investor, for instance, and I'm speaking to an entrepreneur who could quickly speak to operations, speak to, what that business intends to achieve the next 2-3 years in terms of projection, financial projection and stuff. The model is clear. How that business is going to make money is very clear, and profitability, I could see it clearly. And the team is intact, communicated to me via the business plan. Then I'm looking at a serious-minded business owner, and I'm ready to give my money to such a person. So the summary is, fine. Challenges are so enormous in the country, no doubt about it. But we can, use our internal strength to actually control, those challenges and make them work for the success of our business.
Great, great, great. I love how you splitted the challenges into internal and external. So my next question would be, what are the mental shifts an entrepreneur needs to make to mitigate internal shifts as well as external shifts that are not within their control?
Okay. Let me just pick to, a few ones. First, Nigerian entrepreneurs is like an appeal from my own end. First, they must have like a growth mindset. I want to grow this business irrespective of, the challenges around this business, the challenges in Nigeria. Challenges that exist in the country, it's just like side attraction. If Dangote has been operating in Nigeria before the business was diversified and moved into some other countries and is number one person in Africa, nobody will tell me Nigeria is not a good environment to run a business, right? But first, apart from growth mindset, I think we need to embrace the power of collaboration. So many Nigerian businesses, small businesses, do not want to collaborate. Of course, in the course of my work with entrepreneurs in the country, I could see instances of people that got their fingers burnt as a result of, trying to engage some other partners. But the reality is, where did they start from? If I want to engage you as a partner in my business, I must have identified a critical strength in you that could help my business, such that what we are doing is like synergy, adding your own one resource to my own one resource, and we are getting like 3 or 5 at the end of the day. So it means we need to share similar values or, something like, that help one another. So the point is, collaboration is critical, but judging from experiences of some entrepreneurs in the country, it is necessary before you go into collaboration with any other person or any other business to identify what are the values. Do we have common values? You don't want to involve a business that is going to put you in trouble tomorrow. You want to see what that person is doing. How is it related to what you are doing in your own business, and how does resources the person is bringing in helps or, take your own business to the next level. Mm-hmm. So collaboration is critical, but one has to be very careful in going about it. And part of what must be done when, you are collaborating with other partners to take your business to the next level is even, legal agreements. I've seen so many fights between business and another bit. Just because, when they were starting, there was no any clear agreement. It was just a case of, it's my friend or it's my family member, and we're just doing it together. So there was no problem at the beginning because there was no so much money on the table. But it got to a level where, there's so much money to share. It now becomes, what percentage are we going to, who is... So my point here is, when you are going into partnership agreements with anybody you want to collaborate with as a business, it is very, very important to sign, enter into the required agreements. There are different types of agreements. A legal person will be so handy, in handling stuff like this, but it's critical. So collaboration is critical. And I think another point I may want to emphasize is power of resilience. There is no any business that promises to be good to you all the time. You talked about Dangote the other time. If you check the last couple of months, what Dangote faced,
Sure.
If he didn't have the required vision, perhaps he would have, he would have just abandoned the business. So the point I'm making here is, no matter your level in that business, there's always up and down. When you face challenges in a business, if you are not passionate about that business, or you do not have a very big vision in that business, it is possible you quit. But if you have clear vision as to where you want to take that business to, what you want to achieve in that business, so if anything happens that is perceived as negative, your power of resilience will come to play to say, okay,
Sure.
it's just one of those things. We keep moving, To solve this problem, what you are doing is even start engaging your stakeholders. What do we need to do to address this problem? You're not even thinking about, I want to quit. No, that does not come to table at all. So, yeah, resilience is critical in making a business successful and getting you to achieve what you need to achieve in a business.
So, entrepreneurs, you hear it. Have a vision, be resilient. So I'm wondering also if you, in your experience, you've been able to identify certain industries that do not require so much external funding to scale.
Yes, there are a number of businesses or sectors that may not necessarily require external funding. In fact, generally, I must say this, you don't start looking for external funding to actually run a business, no matter, the sector. The reality is there are so many, alternative sources of funding internally that can be explored. First, before we start looking out for external funding. In any business, because like I said the other time, there are so many entrepreneurs that complain a lot about access to finance. But if a business is not well structured, irrespective of the sector, external funding is a problem. But does it mean such a business will not be able to access funding? Again, the answer is no. There's something we call alternative access to funding. Take, for instance, locally here, you hear about cooperative. Different sectors do have their own kind of cooperative, and they contribute based on what they can afford in that sector, and they access the level, greater level, depending on, the kind of cooperative. So cooperative is across the board, and a lot of people have used that kind of opportunity to fund their businesses, to take their businesses to the next level. Like I said, irrespective of the sector. Another thing is angel investor, for instance. Angel investor, as much as people think tech businesses require a lot of money, for me, that's even the primary focus of angel investor. So instead of chasing a bank that probably may not even understand what you are doing at that initial stage, if you do certain things well, angel investors will be attracted because part of what they offer is their expertise. They understand the peculiarities of a startup, and they can relate with it. They are even coming to support, give you the required resources, expertise that is required, and, they had fun to it, to take the business to the next level. So the point I'm making is all sectors, particularly if you are a startup, you may not start looking for external funding at the beginning. Capitalize on what you can generate internally before you. In fact, some that even start from friends, family members, they pull funds from, all those individuals before they even start talking about, because those are the people that believe so much in you. And they know if you say you are doing it, you are really doing it. And you have what it takes to get it achieved. Other people outside may not necessarily understand you. So a lot of funds are raised even from family members, from your colleagues at work. So,
For typical businesses?
Say that again.
Like for non-tech businesses? Because I know, yes, in tech, we have the angel investors, we have the VCs and everything. So I'm curious to know non-tech businesses as well. Do they also have access to that?
Angel investors cut across most of in fact, all sectors. But in Nigeria, for instance, you have so many of them that are tech focused. But I need to say this. The fact that they are focusing on tech businesses does not mean tech businesses like that. Tech is like an enabler for all businesses to thrive. If a business is going to scale across board, definitely such business must, have technological aspect of it. And if I want to define such a business that is using technologies to scale, in a way, I could call it a technological business. Okay. It's not limited to technology business alone. Angel investments cut across all businesses. We have so many of them focusing on different things. This one's, here could say, oh, we're focusing on tech businesses. The other one could say we are focusing on agri-businesses. But don't forget, part of their focus is to fund a business that can generate cash, that can generate money, such that they're able to last on return on their own investments as soon as possible. So, which means technology will be required, whether it is technology space, it is agri space, wherever, to get a business to scale. Yeah, use of technology is critical. But let me clear that it is not only technology business that angel investors invest in.
Interesting. So I'm sure you heard of another tech company, Flutterwave, who's tinkering with listing on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. So I'm just curious to know how many Nigerian businesses, non-tech, have such exit potentials, or even seek exits from their business onto the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Do people think along those lines? Because for tech businesses, you always have to think about exits, right? In a way, are you going to list in a stock exchange? Are you going to do a buyout? How do Nigerian entrepreneurs, how do they approach exits, right? Or do we even have exits?
Yeah. Of course, so many of our businesses, are even yet to master the basics, let alone thinking about exit strategy. But the reality is, part of what Nigerian Stock Exchange is trying to achieve is what you said. They do have what they call growth board, and it's just to encourage small businesses to get to that level of accessing opportunities on the platform of Nigerian Stock Exchange. And part of what they do to get them onboarded on their own platform is to guide them on what must be done, how do you keep your books, corporate governance, like exit strategy you talked about. So there's a lot of effort in that regard now. But the point is, don't forget, I said over 90% of our businesses in Nigeria are still small businesses. So dealing with small businesses...
And they power 80% of our employment?
Yeah,
wow.
They do. So, yeah, there's a lot of effort in that regard, particularly for some of them that are now at the stage of scaling. That part of what they need to fulfill, the basic requirements, is that. So a lot of, there's so many EDIs, enterprise development institutions in the country that are really guiding entrepreneurs, look beyond accessing funds in banks. Because if you check it, currently, cost of fund is even extremely high for businesses. So to be able to access other alternative opportunities in terms of accessing funding opportunities. So they are guided on what you need to do, what you need to put in place to be able to, and that's part of corporate governance, which some of those EDIs, even as small as some of us that we call ourselves business development service providers. That's part of what we guide entrepreneurs on.
Sweet. So are there any overlooked industries? Because I know there's a spotlight on certain industries everyone wants to do a business in nowadays, but from your experience, do we have overlooked industries that maybe could give great returns, but there's not yet much visibility? The industry too is moving in silence.
I don't like answering yes to this kind of question, but I think I'll be forced to answer yes, particularly because of the gap in agri-space. Agri-space do have a very high potential, to take the Nigerian economy to the next level. Even without thinking about wealth creation yet, if you think about food security in the country, you will agree with me that a lot of effort must be put into agri-space. And if you think about it, most of our young people don't even think about, agri. It's just like, it's for some people, not for me, We need to be in tech space. Not knowing that agri-tech is very important. We need to make use of drone. We need to make use of AI to do certain things. Because if you check what agri-space is doing, if you compare our own agri sector in Nigeria with some other advanced countries, you will see our level of yield so small, as in very, very small compared to other countries' yield. So if technology is deployed, even starting from testing soil, is this crop good for this kind of soil? We start using technology to do that. That's taking us to somewhere. And I think it is the young people that can do better in that space. So it is rated so low in terms of, people venturing into businesses in agri space. But I think it is what we need to look at and do more in that regard. I personally, I'm doing something in that space.
Sweet. Do you see a pathway to us solving our leather problem, which is the pommel that we constantly consume? Because they say we can't produce leather in Nigeria because we eat too much pommel. What do you think there's going to be a pathway out of that? Maybe using technology or AI?
I think we need to find a way around it. There's some category of Nigerians would not like us to address this matter. So, but the reality is, we need to start thinking about value creation instead of addressing poverty alone.
Sweet.
Because this topic, when people are addressing it mostly, it is always addressed, within the context of poverty, that, if Mama is taken away, we are no longer having access to it. How do common people eat meat? So that's a challenge. But the reality is there a greater value to get from our leather better than Mama? Obviously, the answer is yes.
Sure.
We are so, I know in Kano and some other cities, people are doing a whole lot in terms of leather production and stuff. But what do we turn it to instead of, making it to produce what would be useful to you and I in the country? It is, pommel that we thought.
Sorry, pommel lovers, we're not coming for your pommel.
I'm not criticizing, my father used to like pommel so much, so and once in a while, I also take it. I'm guilty of the same. So, but the reality is we need to look at it from the point of value creation and how can we maximize the use of our leather instead of eating it so cheaply, and we are not making something big from it. Yeah,
I totally get you. So aside from agriculture, what other industry do you think in the next decade is probably going to be big, especially with the entries of technology like AI and co? What other industry do you think in the next decade, in the next 10 years, will actually blow? When people who embrace that particular industry can actually grow big from it, blow big, as they say?
Well, using technology, I think one can actually grow big in any business, in any sector. It's just a way of, doing it well. But I think sometimes it's even about the focus of the country. Sometimes it's just like leather you talked about. If Nigerian government decides to say, okay, the next 5 years, we want to grow our leather industry in Nigeria using all relevant technologies to make it happen, you will see that billionaires will be created in that space. So beyond what we can see in terms of what is happening, tech is really growing in Nigeria. Fintech is really growing. They are raking a lot of billions of dollars. You guys, you guys are part of it. But in my own mind, I still want a lot of effort to be deployed to agri-space. There's a whole lot, whether in terms of, because we have what is required to make it so big from agri-space. Why are we, leaving it behind? Why are we not exploring these opportunities? Can we deploy the required technology, to make it happen? And we are creating billionaires from that space in the next 3-5 years. I think it is possible. It is really possible. So I would say I like agri to to take the center stage.
Certainly, it's definitely an open secret, right, as at this point.
Yeah, your sector is growing already. It's making good money. Fintech, no doubt about it, and it's going to continue to do that. I don't want to start talking about the differences you guys are making compared to conventional, what we experienced in that space before now. But the reality is your sector will continue to make money. That's fintech. But can we also deploy that level of energy in agri-space? And again, while we are developing agri-space, agri does not stand alone. So we are not looking at whether primary or secondary, farming on the farmland or processing to, creating value from the primary product. But the entire value chain, don't forget, if I produce in Kano and my market is Lagos, logistics becomes an aspect of that business. It means even if I'm supported in Kano to produce well, but the logistic aspect of it is not taken care of, between Kano and Lagos, perhaps 50% of my product will get bad. So the point I'm making is the entire value chain must be supported for us to, achieve what we are expecting to achieve, building billionaires in that space the next 3-5 years.
Right. And for a ton of entrepreneurs to certainly be watching this, and I'm wondering if you could help them identify one common mistake a ton of them make, right? That leads to their business getting stuck at a particular level, just enough to get by. If you have more, let's hear.
There are a number of mistakes, really. And in most cases, it's not their fault. It's the environment. But going forward, like so many businesses, we start without any knowledge of that space. So my own recommendation here is, irrespective of, the sector you want to venture into, knowledge of that space is critical. Knowledge of that business is very important. Not technical knowledge alone, because so many entrepreneurs are very good in terms of their product, their services. They know it from A to Z. But understanding of their market, the trend in that market, even their potential buyers, what are their major interests? They don't know so much about, and you can have a fantastic product if you do not have people to sell it to, or you are not addressing their needs properly. That product becomes so useless. So the point I'm making here is the fact that we need to bridge knowledge gap. It is a mistake that so many entrepreneurs make. Most of them are not intentional about acquiring knowledge that is related to their own line of business. So that for me is critical. And mistake around not keeping records is actually affecting so many businesses not able to access finance. There is no any funder out there that will give money to a business that does not have record of what he or she has been doing in the last 1-2 years. So keeping records is critical to a successful business. I think I talked about this initially. Investment readiness. there are some relevant boxes that one needs to tick off, to say this business is going to grow, this business is going to do well in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and it's going to be sustainable. So all businesses out there must not fail to identify, all those boxes as it relates to their own business. One of them is even, you'll be so surprised that majority of our businesses in the country are not registered with CAC. And that is why so many funding opportunities are only accessed by just very small percentage of businesses out there, because the remaining ones are not registered. And for unregistered businesses, if government is giving out funds, perhaps they are able to access less than 500K. What's 500K going to do to take that business to a greater level? So registering the business with CAC is critical. And like I said, so many businesses make that kind of mistake. I don't want to expose to tax people. Tax authority, I believe, they are now friends of businesses going forward. I said at the beginning that Finance Act states clearly that if you are not making up to 25 million naira turnover, you are not going to pay tax. The tax reforms, as explained to us currently, is even going to take it higher, which means tax authority are now going to become friends of businesses in the country.
Right.
So, such mistake must not, be made. The business must be registered accordingly, and records are kept properly. And most of, I don't want to offend any gender here. So many entrepreneurs in the country do not separate themselves from the business, right? You are making money in that business, but when you want to spend something that is personal, it's not about business, you still dip your hand in the purse of the business to spend on all those personal things. And I think it's part of the common mistakes that most of entrepreneurs make, and we need to check it. It's not going to take the business to the next level. And if those basic things are not checked, it is difficult to take that business from that rat race level to another level. Of course, some people are comfortable with that rat race level because that can take care of their basic needs. But if you are able to take care of your basic needs with that rat race, the same effort you are putting in is just to make some necessary adjustments. You put in that same effort, you take the business to the next level. You're not just taking care of yourself or your family members alone. You're able to create wealth for Nigeria. You're able to, provide employment for our young people in the country. So they need to look beyond their own personal selves and do business as it's supposed to be done, so that the business can attract funding that will take it to the next level to create wealth and create jobs, quality jobs for our young people in the country.
Sweet. So I think one of the things I'm hearing here is, for most entrepreneurs, right, the mentality here is to have a vision for wealth creation, which is very different from the average. You just want to have enough to maybe go out, buy a few cars and all. So I think to enter the billionaire league, that's the mentality behind it. Sweet. And one of the things I would like to add, whilst we were doing research and talking to several businesses as well, we do notice that when it even comes to their reporting, their income, they kind of understand, they kind of can recall their income. It may not be properly reported, but one of the things that is thoroughly lacking in reporting, that is totally messy, is their spending, right? Their spending records is, my goodness. It is here and there, especially when you have multiple 2Ks that you can't account for. Yeah. Because we will hear things like, oh, this logistics business, I make a ton of money there. And then they go to their account and it's not reflecting that, thinking, well, I think I heard, I think I saw 4 million enter, right? Right. So that's the reporting and angle as well. So I think I like how you were able to cut that unique challenges into income, into external and internal. And I think even when it comes to the reporting as well, the income, the outflow, all of that.
Yeah. And I think you guys are addressing the expenses aspect of it. Thank you for Flex Finance for doing that for our entrepreneurs in the country.
Well, thank you. Thank
well
you.
done, well done.
Thank you. Yes, we are absolutely doing that. So before we leave, right, what's the one underrated business strategy that has helped people scale massively, right, without even needing so much funding? It's so underrated that a lot of people are, it's underrated, but so many people are not doing it.
I think there are so many strategies depending on your own kind of business, your model, the customers that you want to serve, their geographical location, and some other factors, that actually determine the kind of strategy you deploy. But I think one of those strategies that we don't commonly use is franchising. There is a particular brand that is so common. I don't want to emphasize, that name here. But the reality is, you find it in so many. In fact, there's another one.
Do we eat the brand? Does the brand have any relation to food?
In fact, there's another one in pharmaceutical space. 10 years ago, perhaps you could only find it in one or two places. But today, you go to major cities in Nigeria, you find it, you find that brand. The point I'm making here is franchising can take that business level, can take your business to the next level as fast as possible. But people don't see it as a working strategy, and I think is because of I want to own my business 100%. Even if it is a business of 10 million naira, you want to be the CEO, MD, everything to that 10 million instead of just having 10% of 1 billion naira, right? So franchising may not be seen as a strategy that works, but I must be honest with you, it is a strategy that actually works for so many businesses. But again, beyond that, I think let me speak to just one that also applies to all businesses. Part of strategies that take businesses to the next level in this technological age is digital marketing, digital space. There's no way a business can grow beyond its locality without deploying digital marketing strategy to take that, because there's a limit to what you can do with word of mouth. Because so many small businesses, all they do is, tell people what I do. Sometimes they tell you, oh, can I afford to make jingle on Nigerian radio stations and stuff? But it's not about jingle. It's about digital space. You only spend based on your budget, and you can get the required mileage, even as little as what you have. So the point here is digital strategy works for all businesses because for you to scale, that business must be taken beyond where you are operating from. I must be able to order for what you are doing in Kaduna here in Lagos. So far, that product addresses my own need. I must be able to, from here in Lagos, apply for it, order for it online, and you're able to find a way to get it delivered to me. So I think that is very relevant to virtually all businesses. Because you asked for one. Let me stop at
He has so many troves. You heard that underrated, right?
Yeah.
Really, really. Thank you so much. So, Fatai, it's been an incredible discussion. You've been such an amazing guest. So I'm just wondering, before we just wrap up, what's your final advice to Nigerian entrepreneurs?
I give it to Nigerian entrepreneurs. They create jobs, they create wealth for Nigeria to grow our GDP in the country. I give them a lot of respect, but I also want them to be highly resilient. That was emphasized earlier on. Nigerian business environment could be seen as a turbulent one. It may be a bit difficult, but there's always light at the end of the tunnel. Just do the right thing. Run a very structured business such that that business can run without you, can run on autopilot. You don't necessarily need to be there all the time. In as much the standard operation procedure is built, you have your processes, you have your structure built. It means you can easily replicate that business in any part of the country, even outside of the country. So that addresses the gap of, it is everything is built around you, and you're not able to take that business to the next level, and you continue to run a rat race in your business. Let's build structure. Let's be very resilient, and sky is not your limit, but the beginning.
Absolutely. And then you can join the league of Nigerian billionaires, maybe silent or the ones with spotlight in them, whichever one is. But thank you so much. Thank you all for giving us your time, for listening. And have yourself a wonderful, fantastic day.